I used to believe my life was steady. Not perfect, not glamorous, but steady. Like a porch light that flickers, but never actually burns out. Looking back, I realized that steadiness was nothing more than a thin layer of ice stretched over deep, freezing water. One step in the wrong place, and everything underneath could break. And it did. My name is Harper Ellis. I'm 35, a self-employed interior designer living in Portland, Oregon. For almost 10 years, my partner, Evan, and I have been working toward one dream: building our own home on a 5-acre stretch of land in Forest Ridge. It wasn't just land. It was the last piece of my childhood that still felt untouched, still felt like something that belonged to me. My grandfather, Walter Monroe, left it to me when he passed away. No one in the family questioned it, not openly at least. They all pretended to understand, but I saw the way my parents exchanged looks at the funeral, the way my brother Sean muttered that things should have been divided more fairly. Fairly! That word still makes my stomach twist. For years, I poured myself into that land. I paid every tax bill, cleared brush, repaired broken fence posts, reseeded empty patches of soil, and spent more weekends there than at home. Evan used to joke that the land was my true first love, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. Some Sundays we'd pack sandwiches and go out there with the kind of hope that felt young and reckless. We'd stand in the exact spot where we planned to build our living room and talk about the windows, floor-to-ceiling glass, facing the sunrise. The kitchen would be open, bright, full of the smell of coffee and whatever bread Evan decided to bake that week. Our kids, if we ever had them, would learn to ride bikes under the huge cedars in the back corner. It wasn't just a house to us, it was a future. But while I treated that land like something sacred, the rest of my family saw it as something else entirely. "Sean needs opportunity, Harper," my mother used to say. "You've always been the stable one." Stable, another word that sounds like a compliment, but always feels like a cage. Sean is 32, charismatic when he wants to be, and reckless when he doesn't. He bounces between business ventures that somehow always collapse under debt or bad planning. But my parents adore him. They coddle him. They call him resilient, ambitious, misunderstood. I call him lucky. Lucky to have people who always clean up the messes he makes. Me? I was the responsible one, the predictable one, the daughter who never asked for more than she deserved. At least, that's who they thought I was. One rainy Thursday evening in October, Evan walked into our tiny kitchen holding the stack of mail. "Property tax notice," he said, handing me the envelope. "Same as last year, maybe even a little lower." I smiled, relieved. "Good, means we're still on track for spring." He leaned against the counter, looking at me with that softness he saves just for me. "We're really doing this, Harp." "We are," I whispered, and for a moment, I believed it completely. But even then, something felt off, a tension in the air I couldn't explain, a sense that something was shifting beneath my feet. Maybe it was the way my mom kept calling more often. Maybe it was the strange tone in her voice, overly sweet, like she was tiptoeing around something. Or the way Sean had been avoiding me, refusing to answer texts while still posting nonstop on social media about life-changing business deals. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. The final blow didn't land until my 35th birthday. The evening started beautifully. Evan took me out for brunch, then drove me by the land. The cedar smelled like rain and cold bark, the air sharp enough to sting my lungs in a way that felt strangely comforting. I remember resting my hand on the old wooden fence and thinking, this is home. No matter what happens, this is mine. I didn't know I was saying goodbye. That night, my parents hosted a small birthday dinner at their house. I walked in with a bottle of wine, expecting warmth, maybe a little teasing, maybe even a rare compliment from my father. Instead, there was tension, a strange, heavy quiet. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. Sean smirked, just a small tilt of the mouth, but I caught it. I should have turned around right then. I should have walked out. After dinner, my father cleared his throat and handed me a thin white envelope. "Your mother and I wanted to give you something meaningful this year." I opened it casually, too casually, expecting a card. Instead, I saw a photocopy of a property transfer document. My vision tunneled. My lungs forgot how to breathe. I scanned the page again and again until the numbers burned into my skull. Sale price, $0.50. Buyer, Sean Ellis. I heard my own voice crack as I whispered, "What? Is this?" My father finally looked at me. "Harper, sweetheart, We sold the house you were planning to build, well, the land, for 50 cents. Sean needed it more. The room didn't spin, it dropped, just like the ice under my feet finally gave way. And that was the moment everything, absolutely everything, began to unravel. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember pushing my chair back or hearing it scrape against the hardwood floor. All I remember is the burning in my chest, hot, sharp, humiliating, as I stared at the photocopied deed lying on the table beside my half-eaten slice of birthday cake. 50 cents, my land, my future, my grandfather's legacy, sold to my brother for 50 cents. My mother was the first to speak, her voice soft like she was soothing a child. "Harper, honey, sit down. We knew you'd be emotional about this, but it's really for the best." "For the best?" My voice came out thin, cracking at the edges. "For who?" My father let out a long breath, the kind he used whenever he thought I was being unreasonable. "For the family," he said. "For Sean. He can turn that place into something profitable. You are never going to build anything out there." A dry, disbelieving laugh escaped me. "I've spent nearly 10 years planning it, paying for it, working on it. How could you possibly say that?" Sean leaned back in his chair like he was settling in for entertainment. "Hey, don't blame us because you're too slow, Harp. I already used the land to secure initial investors. People are excited. They believe in my vision." "Your vision?" My throat tightened. "Sean, you don't have a vision. You have schemes you abandon the second they get hard." My mother gasped. "Harper!" "No," I said, holding up a shaking hand. "He knows it. We all do." Sean shrugged, unfazed. "Believe what you want, but the papers are signed. The land's mine. The land's mine." The words sliced straight through me. Something inside me went very still. I folded the photocopied deed and slid it back into the envelope. "Where are the original documents?" My father stiffened. "They're in our safe." "Why?" My voice dropped. "Why would they be in your safe, Dad? You didn't inherit that land. I did. Why do you have any access to those papers at all?" A flicker, just a small guilty flicker, crossed my mother's face. That was when the truth finally hit me. They didn't just betray me, they planned it. "Harper," my father started. "This is not the time to escalate. We did what we believed was legal?" I cut in sharply. "Is that what you're trying to say?" Silence. Thick, heavy, telling. My pulse pounded in my ears. Sean smirked. "Look, Harp, maybe you should just enjoy your birthday instead of making this a whole drama." Something broke in me then. Not loudly, not visibly, but deeply. I set the envelope on the table and looked at each of them. "You sold the only thing I had left of Grandpa. Without asking. Without telling me. Without a single conversation." My mother reached for my arm. "We didn't want conflict, sweetheart." And that was it. That was the moment I realized the truth. They didn't avoid conflict. They counted on my silence. I stepped back. "I need air." "Harper," my father warned, "don't storm out. You're being dramatic." I stared at him, something cold settling into my bones. "No," I whispered. "For the first time in my life, I'm being clear." I walked out. I didn't take my coat. I didn't take my phone. I just stepped out into the freezing Oregon night, letting the cold slap the humiliation off my skin. The wind stung my eyes, and the porch light cast a sickly yellow glow over the yard where Sean used to play baseball and break windows he never paid to replace. Memories hit me in sharp, fractured pieces. Grandpa teaching me how to plant cedar saplings, me measuring fence posts with him on lazy summer mornings, the way he'd squeeze my shoulder and say, "This land is yours, Harper. Treat it like you'd treat your future." And I had. God, I had. Until tonight. I sat on the porch steps, trying to breathe. My chest trembled with anger, disbelief, heartbreak. My hands were numb before I even realized I was shaking. The door creaked behind me. Evan stepped outside, his voice gentle. "Hey!" I didn't turn around. "They sold it," I whispered. "They actually sold it." He sat beside me, wrapping his coat around my shoulders. "I know. I heard." "How could they?" My voice cracked. "How could my own parents do that?" Evan sighed. "They think Sean needs help. They've always treated you like you'll be fine no matter what." "I'm not fine," I said, tears burning my eyes. "I'm really not." He squeezed my hand. "Then we fight." I looked at him, startled. Fight? Yes. Fight. This isn't over, Harper. I shook my head. They already signed the papers. They took everything. But Evan shook his even harder. They took what they think you won't fight for, but you can fight, and you should. I stared at the yard again, at the dark sky, at the neighbor's porch light flickering in the distance. Something inside me, something I thought was gone, stirred. Resolve. No. Defiance. For 35 years, they'd counted on my silence. Tonight, I felt the silence die. I stood up slowly. I need answers, Evan. I need the truth. Every detail, every signature. And you'll get it, he said, rising with me. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't running. I was planning. And for the first time in my life, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt ready. Ready to stop being the obedient daughter. Ready to stop being the quiet one. Ready to fight for what was mine. Even if that meant tearing apart every lie my family built. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photocopied deed, 50 cents, my parents' signatures, Sean's grin. The betrayal sat in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. By sunrise, one thing was clear. I needed help, real help, and there was only one person I trusted enough to call, Maya Preston. She and I met in college before life split us into different worlds. She went to law school and built a reputation in Portland as the attorney corporations feared. She specialized in one thing, fraud, especially the kind committed within families. If anyone understood how betrayal hid behind polite smiles, it was her. When she opened the door to her office and saw my face, she didn't even ask what was wrong. "Who did it?" she said. "My parents," I whispered. "And my brother." Her expression hardened in an instant. "Come in." I followed her into a glass-walled conference room overlooking the Willamette River. Everything in her office, her tone, her movements, the way she pushed a legal pad toward me, made me feel like for the first time since the birthday dinner, I had ground beneath my feet. "Start from the beginning," she said. And I did. Every humiliating detail, the envelope, the deed, the 50 cents. Sean bragging about securing investors. My father telling me I never would have built anything. My mother insisting it was best for the family. My voice shook, but Maya let me talk until I emptied everything out of me. Then she opened her laptop and said, "Let's pull the property records." A few seconds later, she turned the screen toward me. My breath caught. Owner, Harper Ellis. "Maya, that can't be right." "Oh, it's right," she said, typing quickly. "If a property transfer had gone through, it would show here. But look, nothing, no new deed recorded, no legal transfer, nothing at the county level." I stared at the screen like it was a life raft. "So what did they sign?" I asked. "Fake paperwork," she said bluntly. "Your father likely submitted a notarized statement claiming he was the rightful heir. Completely illegal, by the way. But he didn't file it at the county because he knew it wouldn't hold up under scrutiny." She leaned back, crossed her arms. "They tried to steal your land off the record. Classic family fraud." My stomach twisted. "They really thought I wouldn't check." "They counted on it," she replied. Then she pulled up another tab. "Now let's check your brother." And that was when everything got worse. Within minutes, Maya found multiple online listings for Sean's cabin resort project, fake renderings, grand promises, contact forms for early investor access, and worst of all, screenshots of his social media, videos of him standing on my land, bragging about machine equipment, talking about breaking ground soon, claiming he already had permission to build. My jaw tightened. "He doesn't even own it." "No," Maya said. "But he's accepting deposits. That's criminal." I swallowed. "You can stop him, right?" "Harper," she said, leaning forward. "I can do more than stop him. I can bury this entire scheme." But I wasn't done. There was something I'd kept buried for years, something I never imagined I'd need. Now, it could burn their entire plan to the ground. "There's something else," I said quietly. Maya's eyes narrowed. "Tell me." I took a deep breath. "Before Grandpa died, he made me set up an LLC, Monroe Ridge Holdings. He said it was insurance for the future. I thought it was unnecessary, but he insisted." "Insurance how?" Maya asked. "The LLC owns the water rights," I said, "and the electrical easement." Maya froze. "You mean—" "Yes," I said. "Sean can have the land on paper, but without the water and the electricity, He can't legally build anything. Not a cabin, not a shed, not even a fence. Slowly, a smile stretched across Maya's face. The kind of smile predators give when they finally see the weakness in their prey. "Oh, Harper," she whispered. "You're holding the detonator." A weight lifted off my chest. For the first time since the birthday dinner, I could breathe. We spent the next 3 hours gathering everything: contracts, screenshots, copies of the LLC documents, proof of water rights, emails from Sean's investors. Maya worked like a surgeon, precise, methodical, unforgiving. Then she played the final piece of evidence I didn't expect to matter. The audio recording from my smartwatch, the one from the birthday night. My parents' voices crackled softly through the speaker. My mother: "She's too soft. If we don't take the land, Sean will never get ahead." My father: "She'll accept it eventually. She's a girl. She doesn't care about land the way men do." The words hit me like a slap. Maya paused the audio, her jaw tight. "This changes everything." "It does?" I asked. "It proves motive. Gender discrimination. Intentional exclusion from your inheritance. Harper, this isn't just unethical. It's actionable." I pressed my palms against the table to steady myself. "So what happens now?" Maya shut her laptop with a deliberate snap. "We go to war," she said. Something inside me straightened, sharpened. The part of me that had been quiet my entire life, trained to avoid conflict, trained to be grateful for scraps, finally woke up. "Tell me what to do," I said. Maya's eyes gleamed. "First, we freeze everything. Then we hit them with a cease and desist. After that, we file a petition with the court." I nodded. "And Harper?" "Eh?" "Yes." "This time," she said softly, "you don't back down." I didn't plan to. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of my family. I was ready to expose them, and I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for me, for my grandfather, for the land they tried to steal, the land that would finally show them who I really was. The cease and desist letter went out on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone lit up with messages from my mother, my father, then Sean, one after another, furious and unfiltered. My mother: "How could you do this to your own family?" My father: "We raised you better than this." And Sean, of course: "You jealous, pathetic witch." By evening, he went live on Instagram. From the corner of Maya's office, I watched him pace in front of his ring light, fake outrage dripping from every word. "My own sister," he told his followers, "is trying to destroy my business out of jealousy. I'm building something for the community, and she just wants attention." I felt my jaw clench, but Maya only smirked. "Let him talk. He's digging his own grave." And he was. Because 2 days later, the state investigators showed up, led to him by the evidence we provided. Screenshots of investment solicitations, photos of his construction equipment on protected wetlands, deposits from strangers who thought they were buying luxury cabins that didn't exist. Reality finally began to corner him. That was when Sean stopped posting. That was when the real fight began. The discovery phase of the lawsuit was brutal. Not for me, but for them. Maya handled it like someone peeling wallpaper and finding termites behind every layer. What she uncovered wasn't just sloppy fraud. It was calculated. Emails from my father to a notary. "Just stamp the form, she'll never check." Emails from Sean to his investors. "Paperwork is just a formality. The land is mine." Worse yet, an email thread where Sean and my father discussed using the land as collateral for a $20,000 personal loan. $20,000, borrowed on my property, without my knowledge or consent. "Maya," I whispered when she showed me the document, "they used my inheritance to pay his debt." She nodded grimly. "And that is exactly what will bury them." I should have felt vindicated, empowered. But the truth? It hurt. Every revelation scraped another layer of trust from my past, leaving nothing but raw bone. The night before the hearing, Evan asked if I wanted him there. I shook my head. "I need to do this alone." He didn't argue. He just held my hands and said, "Then go remind them who they underestimated." The courthouse in downtown Portland felt colder than I expected. Sharp, echoing, like a place built for judgment. My parents were already seated when I walked in. My mother's eyes red from crying, my father's jaw set tight. Sean sat beside them, arms crossed, nostrils flaring when he saw me. I sat on the opposite side, alone. And strangely, for the first time in my life, I felt stronger for it. When the judge entered, everyone rose. The air thickened. Maya stood beside me, documents neatly stacked, her expression carved from steel. "Ready?" she whispered. I nodded. "Do it." And she did. She started with the basics: inheritance laws, recorded ownership, my grandfather's will. Calm, methodical, establishing the truth like laying bricks. Then she moved in for the kill. "Your Honor," she said, "the defendants did not legally possess the property they attempted to sell. They manufactured documents, misrepresented ownership, and attempted to circumvent inheritance law." She clicked a remote. A screen lit up. First, the fake notarized affidavit my father signed, claiming to be the sole inheritor. The judge's brows lifted. Second, screenshots of Sean's social media bragging about construction on my land. A few people in the courtroom gasped. Third, the investor contracts, the fake luxury cabins, the deposits, the promises. The judge frowned. Fourth, the $20,000 bank loan using my property as collateral. My father's shoulders sagged. Then came the final blow. The audio recording. My mother's voice, clear as day. "She's a girl. She doesn't care about land the way men do." My father. "She'll accept it. She always does." The room went silent. My parents didn't look at me. Sean stared at the table, face pale. And then Maya introduced the witness that changed everything, my grandfather's attorney. He testified that Walter Monroe intentionally left the property to me, not to be fair, but because he believed I was the only one who valued it. He spoke warmly about my visits, my questions, my care. How proud Walter was of me. My throat tightened. I blinked fast, holding back tears. When Maya finished, she stepped back, her voice steady. "Your Honor, this was not a misunderstanding. This was a coordinated effort to steal a woman's inheritance because they believed she would stay silent." The judge removed his glasses. "I've heard enough." He turned toward Sean. "The alleged transfer of this property is nullified, effective immediately." My mother gasped. Sean's face drained. The judge continued, voice firm. "Mr. Ellis, you are ordered to return all investor deposits. You are also liable for damages resulting from fraudulent solicitation." Then he looked at my father. "And this court will be forwarding your actions to the district attorney for review of possible criminal fraud." Shock rippled through the courtroom. My parents collapsed into each other. Sean swore under his breath, but I just sat there, hands shaking, not from fear, but from release. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Ellis, the property is wholly and legally yours." For the first time in a long time, I felt something bloom in my chest. Not triumph, not revenge, just truth. Undeniable truth. And I finally understood. Silence never protected me. Speaking did. The day after the hearing, I drove back to Forest Ridge alone. The sky was a clear, impossible blue, the kind that looks almost painted, while the late afternoon sun stretched long gold streaks across the cedar trees. The air smelled of pine and cold earth, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could actually breathe. Not cautiously, not fearfully, but fully. I stepped out of the car and walked the familiar path toward the clearing, the wind brushing against my cheeks like an old friend. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The fallen log near the fence, the narrow stream that shimmered in the light, the slope where Grandpa taught me how to plant saplings. Nothing had changed, but I had. I placed my palm on one of the cedar trunks and closed my eyes. "I did it, Grandpa," I whispered. "I finally said no." Footsteps crunched behind me. Evan. He didn't say anything at first. He just slipped his hand into mine, letting the silence settle between us like a warm blanket. Then he said, "This is the first time I've ever seen you standing exactly where you were meant to be." I swallowed hard. "It hurts, Evan. It hurts more than I thought it would." "I know," he said softly. "But pain isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's the door you walk through." I looked at him, at the steadiness in his eyes. I guess I never believed I deserved to walk through it. "Well, you do," he said. "And you proved it." A breeze lifted the hem of my jacket as if nudging me forward. For years, I had lived inside someone else's definition of the good daughter. Quiet, accommodating, accepting. But standing there on the land my grandfather entrusted to me, I finally felt the weight of that expectation dissolve. This wasn't about soil, or property lines, or even justice. It was about reclaiming my voice after decades of being told it didn't matter. I let out a long breath. I need to rebuild from scratch. Evan smiled. Then let's start. We walked toward the slope where we had once imagined the living room would be. The grass brushed our ankles. The light filtered through the branches in soft gold hues. Everything felt new and familiar at the same time. I pulled a folded sketchbook from my bag. The same one I used 10 years ago, filled with scribbles of window frames, roof lines, and kitchen layouts. My hands trembled as I opened to a blank page. Evan raised a brow. You ready? I think so. The pencil touched the paper. Slowly, lines formed. Hesitant at first, then steady, then bold. I wasn't sketching the house I lost. I was sketching the house I deserved. A home born not from fear or obligation, but from freedom. A home built not after a betrayal, but after a victory. A home where no one would take anything from me again. As the sun dipped lower, I closed the sketchbook and pressed it against my chest. This feels like the first real beginning. Evan kissed the top of my head. Because it is. We stayed until the sky turned purple and the crickets began their nighttime chorus. Before leaving, I knelt and placed my hand on the soil. It felt warm despite the cooling air, as if the land itself was welcoming me back, not as a frightened daughter, but as the woman I had finally allowed myself to become. On the drive home, I didn't think about the courtroom, or Sean, or my parents' shocked faces when the judge ruled against them. I didn't think about the lies, the forged documents, or the years of being overlooked. Instead, I thought about the silence of the trees, the golden light, the sketchbook pages waiting to be filled, the version of myself I had reclaimed. A woman who finally stepped out from under everyone else's shadow, a woman who fought back, a woman who won. Back in Portland, as I placed the sketchbook on my desk, I felt something I hadn't felt since childhood. Peace, not the fragile, pretend peace my parents praised, but real peace, the kind that comes from knowing you chose yourself. And if choosing myself meant walking away from people who never valued me, that was a price I finally understood was worth paying. This was my life now, my land, my future, my freedom. And I wasn't going to let anyone take it again. If you listened to this story from beginning to end, tell me, did it stay with you? Did Harper's journey resonate with you in some way? What kind of story would you like to hear next? Please leave your thoughts below, hit like if this story moved you, and subscribe so you don't miss the powerful stories other women will share.